The wreck had no right to be there. It was an alien warship, massive, scarred, and half buried in a stretch of desert no one visited willingly. To the Galactic Union, it was a lost cause, a broken relic from a failed invasion they would rather forget. It had been catalogued, stripped of anything they considered valuable, and abandoned under the assumption that the locals, primitive, unspacefaring humans, would never comprehend what it was, let alone restore it. They didn't even bother to destroy the hull. Why waste the energy on something that would rust away under alien skies? On Earth, the story was different. The governments that discovered the crash sealed it off immediately, fencing it behind layers of lies and armed patrols. Publicly, it was a hazardous waste site contaminated by a meteor impact. Privately, it was humanity's most guarded secret, a technology vault wrapped in alien steel. A handful of scientists, engineers, and military strategists were given clearance. Most didn't even know the full truth of what they were working on. The first time a human team walked its corridors, they were stunned. It was like stepping inside the skeleton of a giant predator, towering bulkheads, alien symbols scorched into the walls, conduits that pulsed faintly even decades after the crash. The damage was catastrophic: deep hull fractures, melted decks, collapsed chambers from the violent atmospheric entry. To anyone else, it was a tomb. To humans, it was possibility. Initial studies focused on materials. Samples of the hull revealed alloys that defied terrestrial metallurgy. They resisted heat, stress, and corrosion in ways no human engineer had imagined. Even without understanding the ship's full systems, scientists began experimenting with these alloys, adapting them for aerospace and energy projects far removed from the wreck. Every fragment of knowledge was catalogued, tested, and quietly integrated into civilian industries under harmless-sounding patents. The propulsion systems were the first real mystery. Massive rings of coiled structures wound through the ship's spine, linked by conduits filled with an unknown crystalline matrix. It didn't match any form of fusion or chemical drive humanity knew. Without its original power core, removed by the aliens before they fled, it was silent. But even in silence, the design spoke of speed and maneuverability far beyond human craft. The weapon systems, what remained of them, were worse. Entire decks had been gutted, the main cannon's firing assembly torn out. Still, hints remained: scorch marks along channels, alien residue fused to venting systems, targeting arrays that could still swivel on their mounts when given a jolt of human-made electricity. There was no manual, no guide, only fragments of function hidden in a corpse of machinery. Months turned to years. Different teams rotated in and out, each adding their own discoveries to an ever-growing archive. Some sought to replicate components outright. Others pursued hybridization, linking human-built reactors to alien distribution grids, welding together parts that by all rights should never have fit. More than once, equipment overloaded, burning out entire sections of the wreck. More than once, lives were lost to sudden bursts of exotic radiation or collapsing support beams weakened by decades of strain. Still, the work continued. The aliens had been arrogant. They believed that understanding required parity, that without an equivalent technological base, a species could not leap forward. Humanity proved them wrong. Progress did not come from matching alien science step for step, it came from seeing connections they never considered. Where the original builders sought perfect integration of components, humans found ways to force mismatched systems to function together. They didn't care if it was elegant, only if it worked. Government oversight remained constant but deliberately fragmented. No single nation or faction was allowed full control. The wreck became the center of a joint black-budget program so deeply buried that even intelligence agencies barely had fragments of its existence. Supplies were moved under false manifests, entire factories worked off books, and breakthroughs were buried under layers of misdirection. The people involved knew they would never speak of this in public. Many didn't want to. By the second decade, enough had been learned to power sections of the ship for short bursts. Lights flickered on in corridors that had been dark since the crash. Doors hummed open on command. The air recycling systems, once thought inoperable, began to circulate faint currents through the hull. The ship was still far from flight-ready, but the change was undeniable. It was no longer a tomb. It was waking up. Outside the desert, the world moved on, oblivious. Conflicts came and went, economies rose and fell, but the project remained untouched, feeding on time and secrecy. For every failure, there was a breakthrough, a cleaner power conversion method, a more stable hybrid reactor, an improved understanding of the alien navigational lattice. Piece by piece, the wreck yielded its secrets. The arrogance of the Galactic Union had left them blind. In their minds, humans were still struggling to climb the first rung of the interstellar ladder. But in the shadow of the wreck, under the harsh sun of an empty desert, those primitives were building something new, something neither human nor alien, something the galaxy would have no name for until it was too late. The warship they had abandoned was gone. In its place, a new predator was taking shape. Progress was not marked in leaps but in relentless increments. The wreck's carcass became a living laboratory, each subsystem dissected, replicated, or replaced with something functional, even if crude by alien standards. Where the original builders had relied on flawless precision, humans embraced trial and error, iterating until stubborn systems yielded results. Nothing was left untouched. Every cable, panel, and shard of alloy was examined under microscopes, scanned with improvised sensors, and mapped into growing digital archives. The absence of the original power core had been a crippling limitation at first, but it also became the catalyst for human innovation. Entire teams focused on designing a substitute that could mimic alien energy output without understanding the exact physics involved. Early prototypes were volatile, fusion reactors that overheated within minutes, experimental antimatter containment that failed catastrophically in sealed test chambers. Each disaster became data, and with data came refinements. Over years, the project developed a modular hybrid reactor system, human in engineering, alien in concept, capable of delivering controlled bursts of energy at levels that would have been unthinkable before the crash. Weapons posed a different challenge. With most of the original firepower stripped out, the remaining architecture offered only clues, a network of energy routing nodes, targeting algorithms buried deep within fractured processors, and fragments of focusing arrays. Reverse engineering those fragments led to breakthroughs not only in beam weapon design but in entirely new principles of electromagnetic manipulation. Engineers learned to channel energy through alien conduits without burning them out, crafting replacements with human alloys reinforced by ceramics inspired by the wreck's own internal shielding. The first successful test produced a beam so precise it sliced a hardened titanium block into two clean halves. It was nowhere near the scale of the original armament, but it proved the principle. The navigation lattice was an enigma. It wasn't simply a map or a coordinate system. It appeared to be a living computational network, partially biological, capable of interpreting gravitational fields and folding space itself. It resisted human interfaces, refusing to respond to conventional inputs. The breakthrough came when researchers abandoned the idea of replacing its control systems and instead designed an adaptive translation layer, a digital interpreter that allowed human operators to speak the lattice's language without altering it. Once linked, the lattice began displaying star positions and transit vectors impossible to detect with terrestrial telescopes, offering humanity its first genuine view of the galaxy as the aliens saw it. The structural repairs were equally unconventional. Where alien alloys could not be replicated, engineers substituted composite materials strengthened by nanostructuring techniques derived from studying microscopic bonding patterns in the wreck's hull. These substitutes were heavier but far more impact-resistant. Damaged support beams were reinforced with scaffolding that merged human welding techniques with alien bonding agents salvaged from sealed storage compartments. Over time, the jagged wounds in the ship's frame closed, its silhouette once again resembling something built for battle rather than decay. This transformation was not without cost. The secrecy surrounding the project demanded that its workforce remain isolated, often for years at a time. Families were told only that their relatives were serving in national research programs, and many never returned, lost to accidents or illnesses born from exposure to alien materials. The project consumed resources quietly siphoned from other budgets, draining billions without public knowledge. It also created a new breed of specialists, engineers, scientists, and technicians whose skills had no application in any known civilian field. They were, by design, people who could never leave. By the third decade, the hybrid reactor was stable enough to power the entire forward section continuously. Lighting and climate control were restored ship-wide, revealing compartments untouched since the crash. Storage bays still held alien tools, half-assembled drones, and sealed crates whose contents defied easy classification. Reverse engineering these secondary technologies accelerated the main project further, as tools meant for alien maintenance crews proved invaluable for repairing systems previously considered irreparable. Perhaps the most critical achievement was psychological. What began as a salvage operation had transformed into a generational mission. Those who worked on the ship no longer saw it as alien property. It was theirs, a human creation born from alien bones. Pride replaced uncertainty. No one questioned the end goal anymore. They spoke of completion as an inevitability, not a possibility. The wreck had stopped being a puzzle to solve and had become a weapon to perfect. By the time the ship's secondary engines roared to life in a controlled hangar test, producing a deep vibration that rattled every structure for kilometers, the teams knew they had crossed the threshold. What had once been inert was now capable of movement. It could no longer be dismissed as wreckage. It was becoming a ship again, though not the ship its original builders had left behind. This one was faster in some systems, tougher in others, and uniquely adapted to human methods. The work never slowed. Every success fed the next objective: longer power cycles, stronger weapons, smarter targeting. And while no alien eye had yet seen what Earth was building, those involved understood the stakes. The ship was not merely a project. It was a warning taking shape in steel and plasma, a message waiting for the moment it would be spoken without words. Time dulled the galaxy's memory of Earth. The invasion that had ended in failure was reduced to a footnote in military archives, cited only as an example of logistical overreach. To the Galactic Union's ruling councils, humanity remained irrelevant, still bound to a single planet, still fumbling with technology centuries behind the standard. The wreck they had abandoned was assumed to be little more than corroded debris, its secrets locked beyond the reach of a species they believed incapable of grasping even the basics. Wars elsewhere consumed their attention. Borders shifted between empires, and pirate fleets harassed trade lanes. Earth barely appeared on the charts, except as a backwater to avoid. The Union's surveillance probes recorded industrial expansion, atmospheric pollution, and the faint radio chatter of a species still learning to crawl toward the stars. The data reinforced old assumptions. Humans were progressing, but slowly, predictably, harmlessly. When a minor warlord sought to expand his influence, he saw Earth as a low-risk conquest, a primitive world ripe for tribute extraction. His advisors didn't even bother to review deep intelligence scans. They considered it unnecessary. The plan was simple: arrive with a modest fleet, make a display of force, and impose demands. Resistance, if any, would be token. The first scout ships entered the solar system with routine caution. Their long-range sensors began picking up unusual energy signatures from the planet's surface, but the readings were erratic, layered with interference. Analysts dismissed the anomalies as the byproduct of crude industrial reactors or planetary defense experiments too weak to matter. The fleet advanced without altering its approach. As they closed the distance, the anomalies intensified. A concentrated energy source, massive, steady, and unlike anything in human or alien catalogs, was detected deep within one of Earth's barren regions. Initial speculation ranged from an experimental human fusion array to an unstable geological vent. The possibility that it was a functional starship never entered their calculations. Such a notion was absurd. The wreck had been beyond salvage when they'd left it, and no primitive species could reverse that. The warlord's command vessel dispatched a probe for close inspection. It transmitted only a brief, fragmented signal before vanishing from the data feed. Engineers aboard the fleet suggested equipment failure. Others suggested sabotage from local forces, though none could explain how such forces might reach orbit undetected. Moments later, orbital surveillance captured a seismic event at the source of the readings. Dust plumes erupted across the desert, resolving into a vast shape rising from the ground. The initial shock was confusion. Alien officers recognized the contours, the design language, the silhouette of the vessel. Then disbelief turned to alarm. The vessel was not only intact but active. Heat blooms flared across its surface as power channels lit in sequences too deliberate to be chance. Encrypted communications erupted across the alien fleet. Officers scrambled for identification protocols, searching old records. They confirmed the impossible. This was the warship lost during the failed invasion, the same they had abandoned as unsalvageable. Yet it no longer matched the specifications in their archives. Sections of its hull gleamed with unfamiliar plating. Sensor arrays detected weapon signatures they could not match to any known configuration. The ship's energy output exceeded its original capacity by orders of magnitude. Panic began to ripple through the formation. Some captains demanded immediate withdrawal, fearing a trap. Others argued for an overwhelming strike before the vessel could fully engage. The warlord, unwilling to concede to fear, ordered the fleet to tighten formation and prepare for combat. In his mind, the ship could not be as dangerous as it appeared. A patchwork reconstruction, built by primitives, would fail under pressure. That confidence lasted until the first exchange. The human-modified warship locked onto a destroyer at the edge of the formation. A single pulse from its main weapon lanced across the void, enveloping the target in a flare brighter than the local star. When the light faded, nothing remained but vapor and drifting fragments. Shocks silenced the alien command channels. No vessel in their current fleet possessed a weapon with that yield, not even their flagships. The readings indicated precision as well as power. The shot had struck a critical reactor conduit, ensuring instantaneous destruction. This was no random discharge. It was the strike of an operator who understood not just alien weaponry, but alien anatomy. The warlord realized, too late, that the ship before him was not merely repaired. It had been reborn, redesigned for purposes the original builders had never envisioned. Its hybrid systems moved with lethal efficiency. Its targeting arrays responded faster than his own combat algorithms. And worst of all, it was in the hands of humans who had learned enough about alien warfare to turn the galaxy's own technology against itself. Retreat orders were issued in fragments. Not all ships obeyed. Some attempted evasive maneuvers, others fired wildly. None of it mattered. The human vessel advanced without hesitation, its movements deliberate, its firepower overwhelming. In a matter of minutes, the battle that was meant to be a demonstration of dominance had become a rout. The galaxy's illusion of Earth's weakness had shattered in the blaze of a single cannon's light. The alien fleet tried to regroup, but every formation they attempted dissolved under precision fire. The human-controlled warship moved with an efficiency its original designers would never have expected from a vessel of its size. Its modified thrusters delivered bursts of acceleration that defied the enemy's targeting solutions, allowing it to pivot and strike from angles no standard battleship could match. Every adjustment in position was calculated, every volley timed to exploit a vulnerability. Human engineers had built redundancies into every critical system. Damage to one reactor node triggered instant rerouting through a network of secondary channels, preventing power loss. The targeting arrays, once sluggish and limited to preset firing arcs, now rotated freely, locked on, and recalibrated in microseconds. The fusion of alien lattice logic with human adaptive AI gave the ship the ability to predict hostile maneuvers seconds before they happened. In combat, that margin was lethal. The first counterattack came from 3 cruisers advancing in a tight wedge. Their combined firepower should have been enough to pierce any single target's shields, but the human vessel's defenses absorbed the opening salvo with minimal disruption. Hull plating reinforced by human-developed nanocomposites dissipated the impact across multiple layers, and energy shields adapted their frequency faster than the alien weapons could adjust. The return shot from the human vessel didn't simply destroy one cruiser, it cut through all 3 in a single sustained beam, tearing them apart before they could even scatter. Communication channels within the enemy fleet erupted in panic. Commands conflicted as officers argued between retreat and full assault. Those who chose to advance found themselves facing weaponry that didn't follow familiar patterns. Alongside the main cannon, the human-modified ship deployed smaller, rapid-firing energy lances that crippled engines, weapons arrays, or sensor clusters with surgical precision. These weren't meant for mass destruction. They were designed to render a vessel helpless, drifting, and exposed. The psychological pressure was as deliberate as the tactical strikes. Between salvos, the human ship broadcast short, encoded bursts into enemy comm bands, snippets of alien language pulled from the wreck's original archives, twisted into taunts. One repeating phrase translated to, "You left this to die. We gave it life." Every alien who heard it understood exactly what it meant. Attempts to flank the human vessel failed. The hybrid navigation lattice predicted encirclement efforts before they formed and adjusted positioning to keep all enemy ships within optimal firing range. When smaller fighters tried to swarm it, automated point defense batteries, originally designed for asteroid clearance, fired streams of magnetically accelerated projectiles, shredding the attackers in seconds. The alien warlord, watching from his command ship, realized the battle was turning into annihilation. He ordered his heavy capital vessels to break off and form a defensive perimeter for retreat. But the humans had anticipated that as well. The warship surged forward, driving directly into the retreat path, unleashing a barrage from secondary weapon pods mounted along its flanks. Each pod housed a hybrid design, human coil gun principles married to alien magnetic field amplification, capable of punching through capital ship armor in rapid succession. One by one, the largest enemy vessels fell. Some exploded outright, their reactors breached. Others were left adrift, systems dead, crews scrambling in panic. None of them landed a decisive blow in return. The human ship's systems adapted with every hit it took, altering shield harmonics, rerouting power, and even modifying the output of its weapons mid-battle to exploit weakening enemy defenses. The surviving ships scattered in uncoordinated retreat. The human vessel did not pursue every target. It disabled several and left them drifting, their comms open to broadcast the aftermath across the fleet's networks. The message was calculated: escape was permitted only because the humans allowed it. When the final volley faded and the wreckage drifted in silence, the scale of the transformation was undeniable. This was no restored relic limping through borrowed glory. It was a weapon tailored to human hands, built from alien arrogance, and refined through relentless ingenuity. It had not simply matched the capabilities of its original builders, it had surpassed them. The warlord's command ship limped away under heavy damage, broadcasting desperate calls for reinforcements that would never arrive in time. The battle had been decided not by overwhelming numbers or superior resources, but by the single vessel they had once abandoned. Every survivor carried the same realization: humanity had taken their discarded weapon and turned it into something the galaxy had no defense against. For the first time, the galaxy understood that Earth was not a passive world waiting for protection or conquest. It was a forge, and anything left within its reach, no matter how broken, would emerge remade into a tool of war. The survivors of the alien fleet were forced to confront a reality they had long dismissed: humans were no longer defenseless. Captured ships were escorted to orbiting stations, their crews disarmed and held under strict control. The Human Council overseeing the megaship broadcast a single, deliberate message across the galaxy, unambiguous and cold: what you left behind, we perfected. What you abandoned, we command. Every word carried the weight of generations of silent labor, and the implication was clear: any attempt at aggression would be met with calculated annihilation. The alien leaders were brought before the fully operational warship, its bulk dominating the viewport of the council chamber. They could see the hybrid plating glinting under starlight, the energy conduits pulsing in quiet readiness, the targeting arrays calibrated for precision strikes across astronomical distances. It was no longer a relic, it was a fully realized weapon of unprecedented capability. The aliens recognized every component, every design choice. They knew what they had left behind. And now it was far more dangerous than anything they had built. humanity did not gloat. They did not display arrogance or rash aggression. Every action was measured, deliberate, designed to communicate superiority without unnecessary chaos. When the alien delegation protested, claiming old treaties or superior experience, the Council responded with evidence, simulated combat scenarios demonstrating the megaship's ability to neutralize entire fleets within minutes. Data from the wreck's original architecture, combined with human modifications, was displayed in real time. The aliens could see how humans had understood, adapted, and surpassed every system. The psychological impact was devastating. For decades, the galaxy had treated Earth as an insignificant outpost, a species barely worth reconnaissance. Now, the primitives had transformed an abandoned warship into a galactic deterrent of unmatched efficiency. It was not just the firepower that shocked them, it was the human ingenuity, the ruthless precision, and the foresight that had turned something considered useless into a weapon capable of shaping the balance of power across star systems. Trade delegations, diplomatic envoys, and spies arrived from distant empires, each seeking a fragment of understanding, an alliance, or a chance to observe human methods. None were naive, all were cautious, aware that the very technology they coveted had been forged through centuries of patient, secretive labor. Human representatives offered nothing, no treaties, no concessions, only the clear understanding that any future misstep would be met with swift and decisive retaliation. The alien warlord who had underestimated Earth was reduced to negotiating on terms entirely defined by his former victims. His fleet was dismantled or incorporated under strict supervision, and his home system was placed under observation. Every surviving officer understood that the galaxy had shifted in a single, undeniable moment. The lesson was imprinted not through diplomacy, but through absolute demonstration of capability and strategy. Meanwhile, the megaship continued to evolve. Systems that had once been static now incorporated adaptive AI routines, human-engineered failsafes, and predictive algorithms capable of anticipating enemy maneuvers. Every component could be replaced, upgraded, or enhanced with new discoveries. Humanity had not merely claimed a weapon, they had created a platform for continuous dominance. It was a living monument to the ingenuity, persistence, and strategic brilliance of a species the galaxy had long underestimated. Finally, humanity sent a broadcast beyond its immediate system. It was concise, deliberate, and without ambiguity. Do not leave anything behind on our world. Not even your shadow. We take what is ours, we perfect what is discarded, and we defend what we build. Learn this or be forgotten. Across countless star systems, alien species absorbed the message, their leaders forced to recalibrate strategies, rewrite doctrines, and acknowledge that Earth was no longer a passive backwater. The wreck, once abandoned and ignored, now dominated orbital space, a symbol and a weapon intertwined. Its engines pulsed with controlled energy, its weapons calibrated to strike with lethal precision, and its crew prepared to extend humanity's reach beyond the solar system. It was the ultimate expression of human resourcefulness, turning dereliction into dominance, arrogance into opportunity, and underestimation into terror. For the first time, the galaxy truly feared the humans. Not because they had a ship, not because they had power, but because they had proven that anything left in their hands, broken, abandoned, or underestimated, would be reborn into something unstoppable. The lesson was simple, unyielding, and unforgettable. To leave anything behind for humans is to arm them, and to arm them is to seal one's own fate. The galaxy would never forget.